NFL Week 4 is here, and here are my best picks. Today, we got my 3 favorite spread picks and 2 other leans that I really like this Sunday. Now, my name is Austin from Calling a Shot. If you are new, we've had a scorching start to the season so far. We are 14-5 on spread picks, pending whatever happens in Thursday night's game. And this last week, you saw we swept this video. We had the Bengals -4.5. We had Rams -3.5. We had Broncos money line, all cashing with ease. Player props have struggled a little bit out the gate, but we'll turn that around with a little bit more data. If you're new to the channel, do me a favor. Go down below, hit that subscribe button. We're closing in on 40,000 subscribers. Drop a like too. Let's see if we can run up 1,000 likes. We appreciate you guys as always for tuning into all of the videos. And look, we can't do it without our sponsor, dimers.com. Look, if you wanted a ton of exclusive risk-free bets, go down below. Check out that dimers.com/COS link. Use those links to sign up for FanDuel, DraftKings, BetMGM, or whatnot. Go take advantage. We would appreciate it. If you ever want to sign up for PrizePicks or Underdog Fantasy, you can use code COS for a 100% deposit match. We would also appreciate that. Let's dive into my first pick of the weekend. Let's see if we can do another 3-0 sweep for this video. Eagles, -6.5. Now, here we go. Got the surging Eagles taking on the surging Jaguars, who have just come out of nowhere. A lot of people didn't expect them to be this good, and here they are, and this is the Doug Peterson Bowl. It's Doug Peterson returning to his old stomping grounds, where the Eagles obviously fired him a year or two ago. Now, let's look at both these two teams, because so far you got the Eagles, 3-0, one of the only undefeated teams, pending how the Dolphins do on Thursday Night Football. They just came off decisive wins versus the Vikings and versus the Commanders last week. They look at the Jaguars, quietly 2-1, decisive wins when they shut out the Colts and then beat down the Chargers last week. Both teams 2-1 against the spread. The Jaguars defense, let's be honest, it's looked very solid, but they haven't really played a lot of competition. They've played Carson Wentz, Matt Ryan, and an injured Justin Herbert without Keenan Allen. I believe Matt Ryan was also without Michael Pittman. So look at all that. None of those guys are really going to escape the pocket. Justin Herbert would if he were healthy, but he was not healthy. So they don't have to worry about a guy taken out of the pocket, getting away from their pass rushers. That's what they're going to have to worry about with Jalen Hurts, a completely different way to prepare for a QB. And the Jaguars have really been turning over the people. They have a +7 turnover ratio, one of the best in the league. And the Eagles have a +4 turnover ratio, which is still pretty good. But I still think the Eagles are the better team here. They're one of the more unique offenses to kind of game plan for with Jalen Hurts, and obviously they got Devontae Smith, get A.J. Brown. They got a bunch of different talent guys out there that I think is going to pose a little bit of problems for this Jaguars defense. Now, in the end, I think it comes down to the secondary of the Eagles, which is the difference here. Trevor Lawrence is going to have a tough time with his wide receivers. We obviously know Darius Slay. He's one of the most elite corners in the league. But not only that, the rest of the Eagles secondary has been playing super well, and I think Lawrence is going to be forced to throw into some tight coverages, some tight windows, and maybe he makes a mistake or two, and that's probably the difference in this contest. You've seen Lawrence obviously taking a big leap in his second year, but still, the Jaguars are going to want to establish the run. Without James Robinson and Travis Etienne not getting the ground game going, it's going to be tough if they know that you're going to be throwing the ball. We've seen the Eagles defense really ramp it up, only allowing 74 rushing yards per game over the last 2 games. And the Jaguars are playing their second straight road game, so could be a little bit fatigued. And they got a home game next week against the Texans. So could they just look past this game? They've already obviously started off well. Yes, who really knows? The Jaguars also have been allowing a lot of passing yards, 251 per game to be exact. That's 21st in the NFL. And with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, and Jalen Hurts running the whole show, I really like the Eagles here. They're obviously at home, tougher to play at home. Tougher for the Jaguars to play in Philly. It's a tough place to play. You know the crowd's going to be amped up. I love the Jaguars season long. Probably dynasty-wise, Jaguars turning them around, but I believe the Eagles get the best of them here. -6.5. I got to take it, so I'll be taking them as my first pick of the day. Now I'm going to stay in the same division as we're staying in the NFC East. I'm going to go to this one. I have a feeling I'll see a lot of comments that might not like this one, because I'm going to go with the Commanders, +3.5 versus the Cowboys. Now, before you go down below and tell me the Commanders are trash, at least hear me out. Give me a minute or two and then explain this, and then you can tell me your feelings down below. But let's talk about this, because Ron Rivera and the Commanders got beat down last week, 24-8, and it wasn't that close. Their only real points came off of a safety, and then they got an Antonio Gibson touchdown when it didn't matter. Now, everyone's in love with this Cooper Rush-led Cowboys team. I mean, obviously, they keep posting he's 3-0 straight up as a quarterback, 3-0 against the spread. And they came off that good win against the Giants, but I think you look at a motivated Commanders team here, determined to bounce back after that rough showing. And you looked at last year, week 17, the Cowboys and the Commanders, technically the Washington football team at that point, they met up in AT&T Stadium, and what happened? A 56-14 beatdown. The Cowboys just absolutely spanked the Commanders, our Washington football team, and it wasn't even close. And I bet you that score is pinned on some bulletin board in that Washington locker room, and I think they come out here, try to get a little bit of vengeance on this Cowboys team, which hasn't really been, crushing teams with Cooper Rush at the helm. So, look at it. Since Mike McCarthy took over, Yeah, the Cowboys not been very good as a home favorite. 5-9 against the spread, 35% clip winning or covering against the spread as a home favorite. There's no wonder you see all those Cowboys fans sad in the stands. That's probably because they're struggling as a home favorite under Mike McCarthy. Also, last week the Giants, when I don't know exactly the stats, they couldn't throw the deep ball. They haven't been able to throw a deep ball all year long. So Trayvon Diggs and all those guys are just sitting on the routes. Well, Carson Wentz is not afraid to throw it deep. Sometimes that's a detriment of his team, but he's not afraid to stretch the field. I think that's going to give this Commanders offense a little bit more wiggle room to play with. Carson Wentz also won his last 2 meetings versus the Cowboys. And look, I know it's an ugly team to bet on in the Commanders, but I think this plus 3.5, if the Cowboys were going to smoke them, it'd be like plus 7.5. But I don't think they're that good. I think the Cowboys and Commanders game is close. It's a divisional matchup. I like to take the dog in this one. So like the Commanders plus the 3.5 points. Tail or fade if you want to go with it. I love the Commanders. Now my final pick, go be with a team that wrapped up our 3-0 sweep on this video last week. And oh boy, it's going to be sweaty again. Broncos. I'm taking the money line, plus 120 on DraftKings. You can take the points if you want, but you can keep the points. I just want the money line. That's what we did last week. We got it done. Now, you could say, Austin, you kind of got a little bit lucky because the Broncos deserved to lose last week. They took Jimmy Garoppolo running out the back of the end zone, took 3 to ref 49ers turnovers, and they should have almost still lost that game. But look, they got it done, and that's all that matters. Now, you're looking at it, they're taking out a Raiders team that is one of the only 2 teams searching for a win this year. The other one is the Texans, and they got a tie, so that's even better than what the Raiders are doing at 0-3. I'm not surprised that we're going to see a lot of people probably taking the Raiders. That, you'll see all these against the spread stats about the Raiders, 0-3 teams. Obviously, they got all this desperation on their side. Don't want to go to 0-4. I just don't think they're all that good. I don't think their defense is good. I think this Broncos team is more complete, and the Broncos offense has struggled. I can't condone what they've been doing scoring points-wise, but I think they get here because the Raiders' defense is not good. Look, the Broncos' offense has been horrendous, but they played tough defenses. They played the 49ers last week, a top 5 defense. The Seahawks, a team that's played with Russell Wilson for so long, they could game plan. They knew his hand signals. And then you got Texans, a Lovie Smith-led defense. This week, the Raiders allowed 24-plus points in all 3 games. They allowed the 7th most passing yards in the NFL. And what's holding back the Broncos? It's penalties. And it's just losses of tackles for loss. This is a team, if you watch them, it's agonizing because it seems like every first down, they're sitting at 2nd and 13. Like, it's hard to really establish drives and score points if you're constantly behind the sticks, and I think they're going to clean up those penalties. Currently, they have 4 delay of games, 7 false starts, 3 offensive holdings. That's 14 offensive penalties that kind of ruin your drives, and on top of that, they've been giving up a ton of tackles for loss. Last week versus the 49ers, 7 tackles for loss. The week before that, 5 versus the Texans, 6 versus the Seahawks, 18 tackles for loss through 3 weeks. Look, it's hard to really move down the field if you're consistently behind the sticks, like I already said. But I don't think they fixed that because the Raiders last in tackles for loss. They only have 8 to their name this season, and I don't think they're going to establish a lot of get this. Broncos team behind the sticks is a team that wants to run the football. If they're constantly stuck in 1st and 15, 2nd and 12s, it's hard to run the football, establish that. They also, the Broncos defense on the other side of the field, I think can really limit this Raiders offense. Give that, maybe the Broncos offense still struggles, but that defense has been elite. 2nd fewest points per game. 3rd fewest total yards per game, and the 4th lowest 3rd down conversion percentage. The Raiders have beaten the Broncos 4 straight times. That is not becoming 5. I'm riding with the Broncos, so hopefully they figure out the offense. They can get this game done because that defense is still really elite. So give me the Broncos money line. That's my 3rd and final pick for this video. But of course, we got a couple leans. Now, I do want to say for the people, the leans don't count towards my record. We're not going to count them even if they sweep or they lose. We're not going to count them either way because a lean is just me trying to talk about more games. Maybe you guys are curious. So how does Austin feel about X amount of games? Or whatever. So let's talk about a couple ones. I like the Cardinals money line. Currently plus 110 on the Panthers. It's either them or the Broncos in this one. I ultimately took the Broncos, but I do think the Cardinals have a chance to win this one. And I've talked about this before. Under Cliff Kingsbury, this Cardinals team doesn't like playing at home. That's why we faded them last week, cashed it. But they love playing on the road, and that's what we took in week 2 when we backed this Cardinals team. Since 2019, Cardinals 18-7-2 against the spread on the road. That's number 1 in the NFL. Like, you can lay the point or 2 that they're getting, but I'd rather just take the money line at that rate for the plus 110 odds, get a little bit of better value. Now, it's worth noting this is why I'm kind of off of them, because the Panthers have owned the Cardinals just historically, winning 11 of the last 13 in this series. And ultimately, I don't really think the Panthers are capable of winning 2 games in a row. Obviously, they won last week versus the Saints, but the Saints were a complete mess. They turned the ball over 3 times, and yet they only won that game by 8 points. And I think that we'll see this Cardinals team hopefully come out here, play pretty well. It's a team with obviously high expectations, but I think they get it done. I just don't really want to trust Cliff Kingsbury. I've already trusted him once this year. Arguably enough. So I think the Cardinals do get it done, though, if you want to take that one. But obviously the lane, do you guys research for everything as always. And my final lean of the video, Steelers -3.5 versus the New York Jets. Now, yes, the Jets are my team, and yes, I can admit the Jets are not very good, but the Steelers are coming off a loss on Thursday Night Football to the Browns, so they've had a couple extra days to prepare for this game. And supposedly we're getting Zach Wilson. I'm not sure if it's confirmed or not. Zach Wilson or Joe Flacco or not, doesn't really matter to me. I still do think that the Steelers do cover this, but it's worth noting Zach Wilson, notoriously in his career, he's been reluctant to take those check down routes, the advanced drives, not score touchdowns on one play. Zach Wilson will likely come in a little bit rusty. Obviously, if this is his first game, if it's Joe Flacco, I still do like the Steelers to cover, but I do think Zach Wilson's going to suit up. That's what's been projected over the last couple weeks. But Wilson, I'm not too confident in him. I know the Steelers have a great defense, so they can get Wilson, slam him down, hit him a couple times. I think Wilson's going to be a little bit nervous with that pass rush coming his way. The Jets' offensive line is not good. So definitely be on the. They just let Joe Flacco get sacked a dozen times. Not really, but he got sacked a lot last week. So I just think Mike Tomlin, a better head coach, a better bounce back head coach after that longer. They have a longer week to prepare for this one. So I think he's a better head coach than Robert Saleh. So I do think that we'll see Mike Tomlin and the Steelers cover this 3.5. It's an ewy team to back, but I do think they get it done. Obviously, I'm not going to bet it but Mitch Trubisky should bet on himself because he really needs a win more than anyone because Kenny Pickett is just waiting behind him, ready to get in that game. So I think the Steelers cover that -3.5, just the lean. So definitely do whatever you want with it. But that is going to wrap up the video. My 3 official picks: Broncos money line, Commanders +3.5. We're taking the Eagles -6.5. Those are my 3 favorite picks. Let me know your favorite picks down below in the description. Popping up a couple different times. Go watch those videos. We have a couple different videos that probably will intrigue you if you're interested. Appreciate you guys as always. Those dimers.com/COS links are in the description. Go check out those. PrizePicks, Underdog, all that stuff. Appreciate everyone that uses those links to help support the channel. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.